Hey, brother.
Hey, Al.
And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rossell.
And I'm Blake Murphy.
And just as it sounds, we are siblings who love true crime.
Yes, love it.
Love it. This week, this case is almost frustrating because of the lack of answers. But we're going to dive into it anyways. And I'm curious what you think when we go through it all. But as always, before, if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, comment, follow. We've been making progress on YouTube subscribers. Big deal.
Not a lot of progress, but
A lot of progress.
97 subscribers right now. So please subscribe.
Yes.
Even if you listen on other platforms, because our goal is 100. Mm-hmm. And then 1,000.
And then 1,000, yeah.
And then 100,000.
Right.
And then 1 million.
Right.
Then 100 million.
Exactly. All by the end of the month.
Yeah.
So, yeah, YouTube, our goal right now is 100 by the end of the month. So if you haven't, please head over there. That would be wildly helpful. We'd be so stoked.
So stoked.
Right. Well, Blake, ready to roll into it?
I'm ready to roll into it.
All right. Well, it was early May. That's why I was laughing, because I was like, that's not my let's roll. But starting off, it was early May in the year 2000 in the deep Antarctic winter. The Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station was cut off from the outside world, with flights grounded during their winter months between April and October. The approximately 50-person winter crew knew that they were months away from anyone coming or going from this frozen continent. The evening of May 11th, after a long shift at the observatory, Rodney Marks, an Australian astrophysicist, complained of nausea. In less than 36 hours, he was dead. When his body was placed in the temporary morgue, the station continued as if nothing had changed. The cold, the silence, the hum of science all continued on. But now with a question floating in the air: how did a brilliant young scientist die in the world's southernmost research station? Now you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
Rodney David Marks was more than just a name on a roster. He was like a superstar, as Dad would say. Yeah, he was like the real deal. He
The
was
science superstar?
Yeah, he was a cool guy. He was born in Victoria, Australia in 1968, and he earned his bachelor's degree with first-class honors at the University of Melbourne, then went on to complete a PhD in physics at the University of New South Wales. So he was like brilliant. Like, I could never do anything like that. And Rodney was the kind of scientist that could just spend all day looking in the telescope. Like, he loved the stars, the space, all that good stuff. He was stationed at Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station as part of the Antarctic submillimeter telescope and remote observatory. It's called the Astro Project.
All right.
Big old name.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Google, what the heck is this all about? And this project sounds like his research involved unique environmental conditions at the South Pole to determine how suitable it is for astronomical observations. So the goal was to measure and analyze factors like atmospheric stability, dryness, that kind of stuff. I think with the idea of like understanding other planets. But it's just so crazy. I was like, I didn't know people were doing that kind of stuff, but obviously it makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds random.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For us, Antarctica is crazy because it kind of is like the closest you get to a different planet. It's like compared to Mars, like with the dryness and stuff of it.
No way.
Can you believe it? Just crazy. So it was Rodney's second winter over, is what it's called.
Oh.
It's a term for like a small group, as you'd probably guess, staying through the winter.
Yeah, which is our summer.
Yeah, the seasons are off. And this is actually kind of crazy because during like the summer, Antarctica summer, it has like maybe up to 5,000 people on the continent, researchers and scientists. But in the winter, there's like not more than 50 people there.
Whoa, they all leave?
They all leave. It's like crazy small. Well, I guess I should say on the continent, maybe like 1,000 people, but in these research areas, stations, no more than 50. So it's like super tiny. You're working with like a very close-knit group of people. At the station, he was known for his humor, warmth, all that good stuff. He played guitar in a band. He played the violin at night. He was like a big-time musician. He sounded like the life of the party.
They have like live bands. It's like a little city
Yeah.
out there.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of cool. So he was
That's
there
cool.
in the year 2000. So they like rung in the new millennium. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I guess like depending on the person, some people celebrated the new year,
Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa,
I'm just kidding.
the new year with like wherever they're from.
Yeah.
But because the weird thing about Antarctica is that like all the whatever these things are called, longitude lines, there's like no time zones. So like they're just based on like their own time. So a lot of people just celebrated as the sun was rising. And he played his band at their New Year's party.
Whoa.
That's like for the new millennium. Woo, 2000. Like kind of fun.
Bunch of scientists.
Yeah, like,
partying.
yeah. Yeah, for real. So awesome. Now, we are in May of 2000. So it's been 5 months since that party. And the South Pole night was at its steepest. So now we're getting into like the hardcore winter. There's no sunlight, no incoming flights, no help. On May 11th, Ronnie complained of nausea and shortness of breath after walking back from the remote observatory. Let me send you or show you this picture. So I was like, this is kind of crazy. I have an aerial view photo of the observatory and what the station looked like. If you want to look at that, watch your beverage. So, like, obviously the dome is the observatory, and they would, like, walk out to the different base areas. I'm like, it's, like, freezing in this place. And this is, like, a crazy picture to see, like, how isolated and deserted this place really is.
Looks like the moon.
I know, it really does.
Like a
satellite photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. At first, it seemed minor, perhaps a virus or altitude-related discomfort, which is crazy. If you had a guess, what do you think the altitude is in Antarctica?
0.
That's what I would think too. You're like, it's on the water, you know, something stupid. No, I don't know why we think that.
2,400.
I was like 24. No, another good guess. I would have guessed that. The average altitude is 8,200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then like they're at the southern end, and that is closer to 9,300. So of course everyone's getting altitude sickness. They're like literally don't have oxygen. I'm like, that is way higher than I was expecting. But by morning, his conditions had turned like violent at this point. He began vomiting blood, his vision was blurred, and his breath shallow and erratic. He staggered to the base medical facility, and that's where Dr. Robert Thompson was. He was a station physician. He treated him as best he could with the limited resources he had, but it's kind of crazy. So obviously I said there's only like 50 people here during this time, and when according to some accounts, when Dr. Robert Thompson was flying in for his work, when he's like flying in to work there for the winter, he was told that he was going to be the only physician there. And also, he was going to have to be the dentist. He's like, I've never done dentistry work ever.
I mean, how much do you need to do? Just
yeah, I mean, hopefully nothing happens. But if you have like an infection or root canal, I don't know what kind of things happen. But you have very limited resources. You have a handful of scientists, and then you also have the other half who are like the electricians and making sure the heat's on, and the carpenter and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you kind of get a mix of different type of people.
Carpenter?
That was one of their occupations. So I knew you were going to say that. I was like, I'm surprised you didn't call me out for that. That was a real thing. I looked it up. So hilarious you said that. So he obviously maybe felt a little underprepared for the kind of symptoms he's seen, but that's the only resource they had. Over the next 36 hours, Rodney returned 3 times to the doctor, each visit more desperate than the last. He was given fluids, sedatives, and reassurance, but the symptoms only worsened. On May 12th, the year 2000, at 6:45 p.m., after roughly 45 minutes of attempted resuscitation, Rodney Marks, just 32 years old at the time, was pronounced dead. Outside, the temperatures hovered near negative.
Cyanide poisoning.
Cyanide? I don't even know what that is. I've heard of it, but how do you know, like, how do you get that? Where's it in?
I don't know. People poisoning each other with it.
Scary. I like where you're thinking. It's so fun when you just guess random stuff all of a sudden. It's like so abrupt.
I know.
Okay, I can see that.
I don't know why they'd have cyanide out there. You can't Amazon it in 2000 into Antarctica. You probably can now.
Please drop it in. Yeah, literally no supplies at all is coming in during this time, and all of a sudden that's what they're able to order. So okay, go ahead.
Or I don't know what else it could be.
All right, well,
he just died.
Yeah, I like your thoughts.
Either poisoned or just died.
Just because of the symptoms, or why?
Ruptured abdomen, like ruptured something in this.
Wow.
Something.
You really sound like you kind of know what you're talking about.
I don't. I just joking around.
You're like, I actually don't know anything at all. Yeah, so that's kind of what, I mean, at this point, the doctor doesn't even know what's going on, and it's nothing he's ever seen. But outside, the temperature hovering near negative 75 degrees, sometimes dropping below negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's so low. So with flights grounded until October, his body was actually sealed in like this temporary morgue. Some reports say that they ended up having like a temporary, like they buried him in like a temporary grave of ice. But then that's only said in some resources, so I don't know how factual that is. But either way, he was put in somewhere so that he had a place to be while they're waiting out to get medical help and flights. So there would be no autopsy for months, no answers, and no way out for the remaining 49 people that are wintering over at the South Pole, including his fiance.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So the winter crew carried on though. But as with anything seemingly suspicious, people began to whisper. They were shocked that the doctor was so rattled over Rodney's condition that he couldn't even come up with an idea of what could be going on. And there was no police nor coroner, no way to contact the outside world except like a brief satellite transmission. I picture like those old school, like people had a huge headphone, like trying to contact anyone in the outside world.
It's like Rodney dead. And
yeah.
People are like, what?
I know, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, exactly. Probably can't get anything across. We're acting like the 2000s was probably like the 50s, but because there was explorations in the 50s in Antarctica. But regardless, that's all that they're able to communicate. So when the first plane finally landed in October, after months of unbroken night, his body was flown to Christchurch, New Zealand for autopsy. Investigators expected... like,
Church does autopsies there?
That's what the place is called.
Oh.
It's just a town.
Oh.
Christchurch, yeah. I see the confusion.
Yeah.
It's a location.
I'm like, that's kind of smart, actually.
Yeah. So it's a location. And so they sent him there to have his autopsy done. And they did like the routine thing. And they were looking for maybe a heart defect or like maybe a rare infection. Like maybe they don't know what you can pick up in Antarctica. But what they found
maybe
instead...
there's like a crazy bacteria in the snow.
Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah.
I'm about to tell you what it is. Are you ready for it?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. What they found instead would ignite 2 decades of controversy. When Dr. Martin Sage, the pathologist at Christchurch Hospital, began the autopsy on November 27, 2000, he immediately knew that this was no simple case. The results came back within days. Methanol poisoning.
Methanol?
Yep. You were pretty close. You were pretty
kind of close, but methanol.
I'll tell you about methanol a whole lot during this.
Okay.
Well, methanol is a toxic alcohol, as we know, found in antifreeze, solvents, industrial cleaners.
Antifreeze.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're like, yes, that's what it is.
Yes.
Yes.
His
that's
fiance.
Scary. A single shot glass of this could make you blind. 2 glasses would kill you.
Yeah.
That's how little you need. Also,
and it's tasteless for a while. I think they've added taste now.
Oh, I think you're right about adding taste recently. Yeah. But I think in its natural state, it's tasteless and colorless. So Rodney's blood contained 150 milliliters of this poison, a concentration that was 10 times the lethal limit. The mystery was no longer like how did Rodney Marks die, but it was how methanol had entered his system and who, if anyone, had put it there.
Could there be any like leak in the base?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's not like a gas. It's a liquid.
Yeah, but maybe it's like dripping in his food,
Maybe.
drinks.
Yeah. So the moment that this came out, though, like so basic. I feel like the simplest and most common first story that everyone gives is like, oh, maybe he did it to himself. In the months following his death, when the U.S. National Science Foundation, the NSF is what I'll call them, released its sparse statement acknowledging methanol poisoning, their first suggestion is like, we think that he ingested it intentionally. Which is, I feel like, such a cop-out for people who don't want to have their reputation slandered in any way.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's kind of savage to suggest, too.
that's what I'd say. I feel like that's wildly disrespectful to just assume that. But there's kind of like a few reasons why they immediately put blame on this. Reason being is that Rodney had a long documented history of Tourette syndrome and occasionally sought counseling or medication for related anxiety involved with that. And investigators also learned that he had consulted a base doctor about sleep issues earlier within the winter. So evidently this was enough for them to be like, oh, like if there was any mental health or if there's any medications involved, they're quick to be like, this could be potential motives of despair. On top of that, you have months of darkness. Thank you for that big yawn. I think you yawn every time I'm talking to you.
I know.
You can't blame it on the time of the day because that's usually what you say next.
It is. It's like 3 o'clock.
Anyways, outside of his own personal things, you're months in darkness and there's no way home. There's like a big time isolation and you're only with like 40 something other people in a ice block. Like, of course, there could be room for contention and isolation and such.
Yeah, but where do you get that stuff?
That's what we're gonna go into. But before,
a mechanic.
Dun dun dun.
For the
You're
base.
never gonna guess what his fiance was.
A scientist.
Mechanic.
I'm just joking.
No, we're gonna go into all that. But the reason I bring this up is because winter over syndrome is an actual thing where people actually have experienced like conditions such as or symptoms such as like depression, insomnia, which is crazy. Insomnia, you think of like dark all the time, you'd think it'd be sleepy, but insomnia, irritability, diminished cognitive performance, and absent-mindedness. So government officials are like, boom, this is it, we don't want to dive into it. But with circumstances like this and with medical conditions that he had, it wasn't hard to put blame on the victim himself. But one thing that is actually a huge thing in this case that we're going to go into a lot is alcohol consumption, actually. So evidently they call it like getting toasty, which is kind of a funny phrase to me. But it's like just basically getting plastered. And then getting plastered on top of adding the fact that this like wintering over syndrome is a thing where you're already feeling all these different symptoms of being alone in the dark all the time. It's just a perfect formula for just getting all messed up.
Oh, no.
Big time.
Yeah.
Wintering crews would brew their own beer, actually. They'd bottle it
Moonshine?
up. Yeah, basically. And share it amongst each other. Because they get like one ration in the beginning of winter, and they got to make it last until the end.
Ah.
So
they brew their own ski.
Exactly. So rumors spread that Rodney might have drunk from a lab container, deliberately or by mistake, with brewing his own drink. This process is you boil the ingredients, you cool it, it ferments, you bottle it up. The biggest risk coming from poor sanitation, which can spoil the batch, or using the wrong alcohol source. For example, like using methanol instead of ethanol, which is the deadly, or methanol is the deadly one.
That would suck.
Yeah. So could he have done this intentionally? Seems like a painful way to go. He's very familiar with both these items. So we know we have methanol here. Methanol, actually, the reason why it's so prominent in this area is because it's like a cleaner. And then ethanol, they're used for like a whole bunch of other stuff. But their forensic toxicology report showed that methanol concentration in his blood indicated multiple doses over time, suggesting ingestion. What?
Steady poisoning.
Right. That's what it seems like. It seems like he was like drinking it a little bit at a time rather than just like a single purposeful gulp if he was going to take his own life. But I will say, like, as devil's advocate, oddly enough, the coroner's team also even considered that ethanol that Rodney was consuming, like actual ordinary drinking alcohol, could have actually slowed the methanol's lethal effects. So I guess ethanol and methanol compete for the same metabolic pathway in the liver, and that's why ethanol is actually used as an antidote. So if he was heavily drinking regularly, like regular alcohol, it could have slowed the effects in his body if he did have a big gulp of methanol as well. So whether he was taking it gradually or if ethanol was making it look that way, unclear. So I don't know. But when the Christchurch coroner finally issued his report in 2008, he addressed the suicide thing, and he decided, there's no evidence that Mr. Marks intentionally ingested methanol, which I feel like I agree with this statement from what I've read. To those who knew him, they agreed that that's probably not the most likely theory, because he was engaged, like I said, to that woman Sanja, who she lived at the same base, and she was not a researcher but was a maintenance specialist helper. They often ate dinner together. They're planning their wedding, all this stuff. And on top of that, he has wintered over before. So it's not like he was new to the darkness.
Wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, it's not like he didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And he had volunteered to come back. Do you think you could handle that?
I don't know.
What would you do without QT every day?
Shoot, I have no idea. That would not be good.
It would not be good.
I need my drinks.
Yeah.
I'd have to drink water.
Maybe you can get a shipment of your ice drinks before the winter.
Yeah.
You would drink them all way too fast.
Yeah, I would.
Super fast.
Yeah.
But for him, it's like he seemed like he had a lot of purpose. Like he loved science. He loved his research. He loved his fiance. And on top of that, there was no suicide note, no pattern of withdrawal, no financial or romantic collapse. His colleagues actually even testified that he was in pretty good spirits before he fell ill. But what was most telling to me is that he went to the doctor 3 times in those 36 hours because he was getting progressively worse. He was obviously asking for help. I feel like someone who was trying to take their life wouldn't have been so adamant about going to the doctor so regularly, desperately trying to get better.
Yep.
So for me,
Amen.
I'm like, it was a stretch. Nice try.
Either accident or murder.
Exactly. So dive into the accident theory. Honestly, for me, this one carries a lot of weight. I'm like, I can see everything about this. But I'm curious what you think. So when diving into so-called interviews, I say interviews like that because really there's not been a good investigation. We have a detective in New Zealand. Yeah. We have a detective in New Zealand who's trying to get to the bottom of this, and a journalist that I'm going to bring up a lot named Steven. So these two are the lead for trying to get justice for Rodney, but the governments are not on board. But regardless, so these interviews, so-called, not a single person at the South Pole Station could remember seeing a bottle of methanol anywhere near him.
Yeah.
But almost everyone admits the same thing, that alcohol is literally everywhere in station.
Whoa.
Which I feel like for me, I'd be like, I would not notice if a bottle of methanol was near somebody. I feel like I'm not observant enough to be like, oh, on this one day, or something like that. So I don't know, obviously word of mouth, probably not a great source. But in the early decades of Antarctic exploration, this is actually interesting to me, in the 50s to the 80s, of course, I think this is kind of still a thing, but a wildly believed thing that alcohol kept you warm. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's always been a thing, but obviously it's been disproven. However, the tradition stood, and I guess in Antarctica, it's a big, drinking is a very big thing. This is a very social thing. It brings people together. It just makes the work go easier. And so it also introduces a lot of risk. Speculation surrounds the fact that maybe Rodney had poured from the wrong bottle. Maybe he'd used ethanol from the lab to top off his drinks in the past, which is not unheard of, but accidentally mistaken it for methanol.
Oop.
It would have been a tragic accident. Yeah, but also in this case, there wouldn't be any villains, there wouldn't be any foul play, and so I think this is what the U.S. government and New Zealand and Australia, this is what they're wanting to believe, because there's no one to blame. He worked daily around ethanol and methanol. He understood their dangers. Ethanol, this was shocking to me for some reason. Ethanol is used in paints, plastics, rubber, fuel, disinfectants, tend to wounds, perfumes, literally a million other things. And it's the thing that is in your just regular consumed alcohol. So if they have a bottle of ethanol, you can just pour that in. It gives you the same burn. It's the same thing as just drinking your regular alcohol. And it wasn't unheard of that people put this to make their own alcohol in Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
But the
people would drink it in my mission. Or really? Rubbing alcohol.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's like the same thing. So that's like so wild to me. Like this one has the burn, but methanol doesn't. Like we talked about, it's tasteless, it's colorless. Ethanol is also colorless, but I guess the bottles are pretty closely related. You'd have to look at it. Stop it. You'd have to look closely at the bottle to make sure you got the right one.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor, but his colleagues are like, heck no. I guess Rodney was like the safety guy at his station. They're like, he would not have been so careless and accidentally or deliberately drank methanol.
It only takes one time, though.
It only takes one time. You don't know. See, that's the thing. The accident theory, I'm like, accidents are called accidents for a reason. Yeah. You just slip up one time.
Yeah.
So that could be heartbreaking. But a lot of people don't believe it. But here's the kicker. If this was an accident, there would be more evidence. Reason being is there was no missing bottles of methanol. No mismatched containers were recovered. No half-used cleaning solvent that could be accounted for a lethal dose. Even if a batch of homebrew had been contaminated, the poisoning was so severe, literally 10 times the lethal amount, that someone else on base had to have gotten sick as well. Mm-hmm. So it like when they make these homemade batches, it makes like 40 to 50 bottles. Like everyone's bringing this to like the bar, their own like homemade beer, and everyone's sharing. Whoa. So if he had just like messed up, he wouldn't have been the only one that was sick if he was making like a batch.
Unless no one likes his.
Yeah, he'd like, oh no, you drink your own stuff.
Yeah.
That's true. Or maybe he just tops it off like his own like personal drink. You know? So by late 2001, New Zealand detective Grant Wormold had abandoned the accidental theory because all this just evidence didn't line up for him. There was no contaminated brew, no faulty label, no credible claim or no credible chain of events that put methanol in Rodney's glass by mistake that we are aware of. So allegedly. Journalist Stephen Davis is who the journalist is. We're going to be talking about him like the rest of the time. He has done the most deep diving and he's been uncovering witnesses and he's like all in. He's been going over this for over 2 decades. Like to this day, he's researching this.
Wow.
Yeah. So he thinks that he's on the hunt for suppressed documents that hinted at something far darker. So the idea that Rodney Marks might have been murdered initially was like unheard of. Like no way. But now it was the only theory that looked that maybe it was actually fitting all the facts. Allegedly. Not saying I necessarily agree with this, but
let's hear these facts.
Let me give you the facts. So, there's a couple reasons why this might be the case. Like 4 main reasons. This is what's actually frustrating to me is that because this isn't like an ongoing investigation necessarily, because the government's not actually very involved, we don't have a lot of information that we'd probably hope for. So, one being obstruction and secrecy by the U.S. authorities. Big surprise, right? Pretty common.
Locking stuff down.
Yeah. So, I guess under the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, the United States controlled the base, but New Zealand claimed the jurisdiction over the land beneath it. And then because Rodney was Australian, yet working for an American program, all 3 nations had stake in what would be eventually called the world's most remote suspicious death. So we have 3 countries that potentially could have jurisdiction over this case. Mm-hmm. That meant that every request had to pass through like diplomatic channels. And each time it did, the answers came back slower, thinner, and more redacted. That New Zealand investigator, Detective Grant, reported repeated delays and refusals from U.S. agencies when requesting witnesses' interviews, station logs, and fluid samples. So here's what Stephen Davis has to say about that.
Here's the interesting thing. When the New Zealand coroner and the New Zealand police officer intervened, the U.S. authorities complained vociferously, South Pole is our territory. Why are you doing? What's your jurisdiction? They complained and tried to put pressure on the New Zealand government to stop the entire thing. This is the man's employer. This is the National Science Foundation. Why would they be preventing a proper investigation into the death of one of their scientists at the South Pole? Absolutely extraordinary.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder why it's so secret. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the science that he's working on, that secret where you don't want any other countries to know about it and you have to have a clearance? Or is it something else?
That's actually interesting you said that. I didn't even think about the research being a factor.
Yeah.
Like maybe
The research they're doing is redacted, so they have to take a lot out. Could be a reason.
wow, I didn't even think about that.
But it doesn't sound very...
It doesn't sound like they're really very much talking about what he did for research. Like that shouldn't be in the files, right? Like the documentation is like, I guess maybe a little bit, but they're looking for like witnesses to talk to. They're trying to get names of people that could be involved.
Yeah, but like if you're doing something, that's classified, then you can't tell which witness or which people were there, what thing they were doing, where they were doing it at, what they were working on. So it's like, yeah, it might be nothing to do with it, but it's like they have to be like, yeah, and he went with blah 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 blah,
right,
and was doing blah 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 blah.
True.
Blank blank.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that at all actually, because like that's actually something that's brought up is that the New Zealand police are like, hey, can we get the names of everyone that was wintering over, because we need to talk to every single one of these people, and the NSF denied that request. That seems pretty basic to be like, here's all the people, here's all their contacts, like do whatever you need to do. Especially considering, yeah, the NSF was like...
Antarctica's secretive no matter what.
I know. I feel like there's so many things we can go into Antarctica.
Yeah.
We should do another Antarctica.
Okay.
I've actually been to Antarctica, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I saw this one guy like flying over the edge of like Antarctica, and it was like they're never supposed to, like they're not supposed to video it or something, and he was.
Is that the guy that got arrested? He's like young guy?
Probably.
That's
no,
cool.
no, not him.
Oh.
But he also, he got arrested.
Is he? What's going on with him? Is he okay?
I think he's supposed to get released, but there's no planes going there to get him. They won't let him fly out.
Sad. That sucks.
But I think that was the last I heard. I don't know about now.
Interesting. Yeah, but anyways, all that to say that, yeah, too many secrets going on. It seems like these type of requests should not be denied. Eventually, the NSF agreed to like send out a questionnaire to the people that were there during this time. And so New Zealand officials wrote up the questionnaire they wanted. The NSF approved, sent it out to all 49 other people, and 13 responded, but none were key witnesses. I like that's so crazy. It's like optional. That they could just be like, do I want to participate in the survey?
Yeah, or they just didn't see it.
Yeah, that seems...
Look at my mail stack. I haven't seen a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
That could have been there.
I'm so close to throwing all your mail away. Just a heads up.
Me too.
It's not like you would notice if anything was missing.
I would.
But you're right. Like, maybe people aren't seeing it, or maybe they don't want to participate. Maybe they don't want to be
Or they're like, I don't know anything. I'm not going to fill it out. It takes my time.
Exactly. So it seems weird that that's like the furthest they've been able to do anything with the people that were involved. Or I shouldn't say involved. The people that were there and stationed at the time. Mm-hmm. There was also, this is like another form of kind of seems suspicious. There was a machine in the South Pole called the ECChem. Hope I said that right. It's a machine that was used to actually just take your blood and do your blood testing, which it was just like a medical machine, obviously, which at the time, I guess it was evidently broken. It needed repairs, wasn't working, whatever. But if that machine had been working, it would have been so obvious that Rodney had methanol poisoning, and the doctor would have known right away how to treat it and what was killing Rodney. But the suspicious thing is...
his fiance was working on it.
No.
How?
No one knows where the doctor is to this day.
What? No one knows where the doctor is?
No one can find him. No one can get a hold of him. No one can question him. He's MIA.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. You're just like, the doctor's missing. I was like, what? I was like, thought we were talking about the machine.
I know. The doctor, well, the reason that this is brought up is because it seems suspicious that, like, oh, coincidentally, your machine is not working. Like, the doctor's not there to testify of anything that happened that day. So, like, that's the least helpful thing ever, that the main person that was in correspondence with Rodney the days he passed, no one can find him.
Spent years trying to find the doctor who seems to have vanished off the face of the earth. And there were several things about his treatment which you might have questioned. If anybody out there knows where Dr. Robert Thompson, formerly of the South Pole, is, please contact me and let me know.
That seems weird to very, very many people.
Yeah.
Anytime there seems to be secrecy, there also seems to be conspiracy, obviously. And this is one of those things that seem to be suspiciously convenient for higher-ups who don't want bad reputations. So that's like one of the first reasons that everything's looking suspicious for murder. Then there's also rapid cleaning of key areas. Okay, so I guess, like, according to internal documents obtained by Detective Wormland, after Rodney's death, station staff were permitted to clean his living quarters. In the same documents, a physician had recommended a homicide investigation, citing that it's very unusual for a 32-year-old healthy man to die naturally like this. Mm-hmm. Yet the physical site was disturbed with lab benches wiped down, materials thrown out, equipment reorganized. And as the detective later told reporters, we had a homicide-level death, but the scene was 8,000 miles away and had already been sanitized. Mm-hmm. The disturbances made later forensic reconstruction obviously, like, basically impossible. But my question is, like, is that really all that, like, malicious? I feel like if someone that you cared about passed, it wouldn't be shocking to me if people wanted to go in, make the place nice, like, sanitize things, like, out of respect. Mm-hmm. But for detectives and for this journalist, they see that as you wiped a crime scene way too fast, or at least a potential crime scene. I don't know. Do you think it's suspicious? I feel like that doesn't really ring that suspicious to me.
I feel like if it wasn't in Antarctica, it would be suspicious. But since it's there, it kind of sounds not as suspicious. And, like, maybe they didn't know. Maybe it was just like, all right, guys, he's dead. We have to keep working, clean it up, and then the other physicians, like, later on, was like, why did we clean up? It's like a crime scene. But he's the only one that thought about it.
That's what I mean. It's like.
And the other one disappeared.
And
there's more than one
physician. Who's
the other guy?
You just said that. This physician is, like, the guy who was, like, part of the coroner looking over the opposite stuff. But
so he has 20/20 hindsight.
Right. So exactly. So looking back, he's like, "Dang, that stinks."
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like obviously the doctor that was on base is like, I have no idea how he died. So I bet all the other researchers are like, okay, well, it must have been natural causes.
Mm-hmm. Heart attack or something.
Yeah. I mean,
can't check.
It was pretty wild symptoms. Yeah. Seems kind of weird for a heart attack. But yeah.
Poison of something.
Right. And he passed away in May, and the first planes weren't supposed to come until October. So you're just going to leave everything exactly how it is for 6 months? It seems unlikely.
He died pretty early.
Yeah, that's a very long time. So that disturbance just, like, causes confusion. I don't think maybe it's that big of a factor as far as, like, the evidence goes to saying that he was murdered. But
yeah,
what do I know? Nothing.
What? Nothing.
Nothing at all.
No.
But one thing, thanks for backing me up on that. But the autopsy did confirm the lethal methanol levels, yet there was no bottle or source that was ever identified as missing. I think that they're supposed to have very detailed inventory.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, okay.
This is what leads me to think that maybe there is a murderer. Because maybe the person is able to use it, checked it out, said it was for this one thing, dumped some in there, his drink, then kept working on the thing that they were working on and put it back.
They knew better.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that thing was checked out for cleaning this thing and returned with this much left.
Right.
It's like I had to use a lot because it was really dirty or whatever.
True. See, I feel like, someone, if there was murder, somebody who knew how the station worked would have to be, like, the one involved, right? What?
There's only people there that know how to work.
Well, I'm saying like
only
if
50
I
people
don't
there.
imagine every single person is on inventory duty and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe a maintenance girl.
But what I'm saying also is
Person.
I'm wondering
Allegedly.
also is maybe the station is U.S. ran. And I'm wondering if that's maybe why a reason that things could be redacted is because maybe they had really poor management over inventory and they don't want it to come back on them that they did. Really
No, that's not it.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I was like, is it that suspicious? I don't know. Like, could it be like poor station management? Like,
Yeah,
we don't know if there's been bottles missing. Like, no one's paying attention to that.
Yeah, they don't want to get sued or something.
Yeah. Or like they want their research, like they want to look like a very great, like prestigious research station. Mm-hmm. And that would definitely tank their reputation. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I was thinking about. I didn't even think about the whole murder thing that you just mentioned. You keep pulling up ideas. I'm like, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm like, is it suspicious? There's a chance. Is it not? Maybe they just all suck at keeping up on that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Either way, seems like it could be involved. But as far as motives and opportunity, this is the part that really gets me because it's not like we can dive into one person and talk about like why they could be the murderer because everything is so redacted. No one's saying names. We only have heard from 13 people who wouldn't even know who those 13 people are. So all that is frustrating. But of course, you're going to have interpersonal conflict. You're with like 50 people in this confined space. You can hardly go outside. It's negative 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's bound to happen that you're going to have disagreements and there's going to be issues with people. Mm-hmm. But this journalist that like is very heavily involved in everything, he says that he has identified 2 individuals who had means, motive, and opportunity, though he has not named them publicly, which I understand that. You don't want to drag someone's name if they're not involved. But it's frustrating to not know who those 2 people are and what what the means are, what the opportunity is, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So evidently there's room for
interpretation there.
So for sure, interpersonal conflict is a factor. Also, personal or research disputes. This is like some serious work. These are some serious research. People get competitive.
Take it serious.
Yeah.
Want the credit.
Mm-hmm. And so there's like no verified grievances that have appeared in documentation. However, it's not uncommon for people to get very possessive over their work and want to be the one with the research data, right? Mm-hmm. So whether that's true or not, it's just an idea. It's just throwing out speculation, a factor that could be relevant. And then also the romantic or personal jealousy. So we know that Rodney was engaged. Sandra. I shouldn't have let you just slander her name. She has no involvement that we're aware of.
I didn't slander it.
I know, not slander it. But allegedly, from what I am understanding from the data I read, it doesn't seem like there's any reason to believe that she could have been involved in Rodney's killing. They seemed like a very happy couple. They seemed like they were very excited for the future.
Allegedly.
We don't know anything. But I will say also, there's probably like max 8 women at this station. Mm-mm. And so although they seem like a very happy couple, you can't just put out the fact that maybe this is a great environment to breed jealousy and rivalry. If there's like 49 other guys and there's like 1 girl, guys get kind of weird, girls get kind of weird, whatever. I don't know if anything happened there. In fact, the investigators were unable to pursue this fully because U.S. personnel were not compelled to testify. So they weren't given any further information. Could there be more to this? We know that most murders involved relationships or money. And this is kind of a heavy hitter. So whether we know for fact, we don't. Mm-hmm. But another thing that could be a factor. And then the last one I'll say is the whole issue with alcohol. Evidently, alcohol misuse was audited and later estimated to be 60 to 75% of disciplinary incidents in Antarctica. It's hard for me to say. Which is a very high percentage. And everyone says that Rodney was like the safety, the straight arrow guy. If he ever confronted anybody, if he accused anyone of mishandling anything, this could be motive for silencing him, making him a target, anything so that there's not repercussions on the person that maybe is doing the violation. So that is another theory that has been brought up of why there could be motive for someone to want to harm Rodney. Beyond individuals, Stephen, the journalist, contends maybe the NSF had political motive, like avoid homicide liability and international conflict on New Zealand, like the New Zealand claimed territory. There's all these other countries involved. Maybe the National Science Foundation just didn't want to be involved with other countries. So this could explain years of redactions, delays, even if no murder was formally acknowledged. But these are, like I said, theories. And that's why this case is frustrating to me. So this case remained unsolved for 8 years.
Dang.
Technically 25 years.
Now it's closed.
No, technically 25 years because still nothing's going on.
Case now.
Yeah.
Or
if you can call it a case.
Yeah. They maybe determine it's not a homicide.
Mm-hmm.
They're not investigating it or anything.
Yeah. After just 8 years, though, after Rodney's death, the coroner ultimately recorded that he knew methanol poisoning was the killer, but the manner of that poisoning still remains unexplained on all documents. So no criminal proceedings have ever followed. No one has been charged or publicly cleared, technically leaving Antarctica as the only continent that has never had a homicide in its history to this day.
Because they're not counting it?
Because they're not counting it, right. Mm. But rumor has it. This is actually kind of crazy.
Rumor has it.
I was looking into, like, the history of Antarctica, and, like, I was like, is there really no murder on Antarctica? But I guess in the 80s, like 1980 or 81, there was 2 Russian researchers, and they were playing chess. This has some validity, but also a lot of people say there's some myth to it. So allegedly, there were 2 Russian researchers that they're very drunk and playing chess. And I guess one of them got up to go do something, came back, and he accused the other guy he was playing with that he had moved his chess pieces. And the man stabbed the other man with a ice pick over this. Yeah, crazy. And evidently the government supposedly banned chess at Soviet Antarctic stations afterward. That part, I'm like, was that myth? But so things happen. And in another serious incident, it was in 1996, some other guys, there was 2 cooks at a research station in Antarctica. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, they got a fight. A hammer got involved. One of them was just beaten so badly with this hammer. I'm guessing no one died, considering evidently Antarctica still has 0 homicides. Mm-hmm. But 2 FBI agents did come get them from Antarctica, took them to Hawaii to get, to go on trial. Mm. And we know that the abuser did say he was guilty, but we don't know anything after that, his sentencing, and it's not very public. So several cases of arson has also been involved, but definitely also sexual assault and other abuse has been reported as well. I imagine very much underreported. But Antarctica has its fair share of crime and bad things have happened, but because this case has not been publicly identified as a homicide, Antarctica still says they have 0 homicides. The only narrative that accounts for the missing methanol, the sanitized work area, and the unprecedented obstruction is the deliberate harm. So, followed also by the fact that everything seems to be covered up. Like, all this is, looks suspicious. The NSF statement that came out on the day of his passing seems to be their only real communication on the matter. And I actually sent you what that said. So if you want to read what the NSF statement was, this came out in May 12th of the year 2000.
Dr. Carl?
Mm-hmm, Dr. Carl.
I wish to extend my deepest condolences to the family, friends, and many colleagues of Rodney Marks, a distinguished astrophysicist. He was a member of the close-knit community at, what's it called again? Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station for several seasons, and I know his loss will be felt very deeply there. Rodney was also an important member of the larger community of Antarctic researchers who are searching for answers to enormously important scientific questions that That community and the search for knowledge were enriched by Rodney's presence. They are diminished by his passing.
Mm-hmm. So I think people have reached out to the NSF for further questioning, and they get sent this same statement that they posted in 2000, and that's their response. So it seems like they very much are hands off. It seems like a nice little tribute, but it's not enough to satisfy the family and all those who care about Rodney and want answers. There's actually now a Mount Marks. It's a mountain in Worcester, I think it's pronounced. It's a mountain range with a height of, it's like 8,500 feet. So it's pretty tall. And it's actually named after Rodney Marks. So there's a plaque that was erected at the base, and the site at the South Pole in January 2001 is marked by a memorial to him. So all these years later, the journalist Davis summarized it bluntly, saying, "Somebody knows what happened to Rodney Marks. They've simply never been made to answer for it." And that is the case, the suspicious case of Rodney Marks. Wowzers.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's kind of like people that die on cruise ships where nobody has jurisdiction.
That's exactly what it is. You're so right.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because then no country wants to take accountability for anything and be the ones to be the face of it or deep dive into it or be responsible or whatever. So it's very sad. Rodney seemed like such a baller guy. He probably would have done a whole lot in his life, but he is definitely very missed, I know, at least in the research community and with his family. So, but before we go, do you have any true crime news? You can always start with an Ohio State update.
Ohio State beat Illinois pretty soundly over the weekend, and we have Wisconsin coming up this week. We're still ranked number 1, and we're still getting better every week. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
I was so excited for this last week's game. I was all in my Ohio State attire. Blake's texting about getting breakfast burritos on the way, and then I got called in for work. Just about cried. That was so sad. But that's okay. Work went well. I was safe, and Ohio State won. So, what about true crime news?
Alrighty. So, women allegedly targeted elderly men on dating apps and burglarized their homes.
That's horrible. Taking advantage of old guys.
Yeah, in Los Angeles, the authorities are searching for a suspect they allege targeted elderly men on dating applications and burglarized their homes. I don't know how to say her name. It's kind of a foreign name. But, yeah, be careful.
Never
it's
know.
kind of crazy.
That is so sad.
I know.
That is so evil. Taking advantage of vulnerable people. That's the worst type.
A lot of the news are pretty normal, like the ones that we've already talked about for some reason.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, wait, that's actually great news. We don't have crazy updates in true crime.
Well, there's some, but there's a 27-year-old man will spend decades behind bars in connection with the death of his infant daughter, who suffered dozens of rib fractures, skull fractures, and brain bleeding.
That's horrible.
The Commonwealth attorney for Virginia Beach announced October 6th that a judge has sentenced Holloway to 50 years in prison with 20 years suspended, leaving 30 years to serve. A jury convicted him August 2024 of second-degree felony murder and child abuse. According to prosecutors on December 20th, 2019, Holloway was caring for his 2-month-old child when relatives heard him yelling obscenities at the baby over an Xbox headset. The child reportedly stopped crying, was discovered unresponsive shortly after.
Oh, that's sickening.
Yeah.
2 years old?
I don't remember.
I thought you just said that.
I think 2 months.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, 2 months.
People are so messed
crazy.
up.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
And then there's a Texas woman who is convicted of killing her husband after his death from suspicious illness. 50-year-old woman was recently convicted of killing her husband, who was suffering from a suspicious illness. According to the Chambers County Sheriff's Office, on October 8th, the jury found Sarah Hartsfield guilty of murder in connection with the 2023 death of her husband, Joseph Hartsfield. As previously reported on January 7, 2023, deputies responded to Baytown, Houston Methodist Hospital as a patient, Joseph Hartsfield, was transported there via ambulance. The sheriff's office said there were inconsistencies in the information provided by the hospital staff. And the illness appeared suspicious in nature. Investigators determined foul play was involved in the victim's death and arrested Sarah Hartsfield.
Dang. Because that sounds like a poisoning situation.
Yep.
People, I feel like there's just such better ways to leave a situation than murder. But unfortunately, there's always true crime news, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for listening to this week's episode. We will be back next week with another episode of Siblings in Crime.
Thank you. Bye. Follow us on everything.
Yes, please.
And sub.